Hello, Assalamu alaikum. How are you all? So today I'd like to talk about the present law enforcing situation and law enforcement situation in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is actually a democratic country, so there are some basic standards of democracy. The basic standard of democracy is that rule of law, access to justice. The people will get the proper access to justice from the court. The common people will get the justice from any kind of law enforcement agencies without any kind of hassle, without any kind of burden. But in recent time, we have seen there are lots of technical barrier, political barrier, even lots of case of extortion in Bangladesh. It actually says that there is no rule of law, access to justice, or implementation of good governance in Bangladesh. And very recently, for example, 2 days ago in Mirpur Pollobi area, a young girl whose age is actually 8 years old, she was raped and has been killed by a neighbor. So this is actually the glaring example of lawlessness in Bangladesh. So as a common people, we have to talk about the incidental matter which is actually happening in Bangladesh. So with the common people, we have legal barriers, social barriers, and economic barriers. As if I say something against the government or governmental policy, it will technically uh, hassle me. It will technically harass me in different kinds of situation. But despite these types of fear, despite these types of eagerness, I have to also talk about the technical barrier of the law enforcement agencies. So right now the situation is actually happening in Bangladesh. This situation will never make any kind of sense, any kind of good clarification, good realization, rule of law, access to justice, or good governance structure in Bangladesh. So what will happen in the future? Whenever the common people will not get the justice for any kind of rape matters or the killing issues, in that time the people will take the law in their own hand. Whenever people will take the law in their own hand, then lots of mob justice will occur, then lots of incidental circumstance will arise, and in that time people will not follow the rules, regulations, codification. Even people has no belief on the government. So before doing this, the law enforcement agencies, they have to come forward to deal with this issue tactically. Whenever they will deal with these issues tactically, then there is actually three things will happen. The first of all, people will get the justice, people will get their remedy without any kind of hassle, harassment from the court system, from our law enforcement agencies. At least I believe that law enforcement agencies is not the sole stakeholder to provide the judgment, to provide the justice, but whenever people will go to the law enforcement agencies, at least they have to assure the people you will get the justice, you will get your proper justice from the court without any kind of hesitation, without any kind of hassle. So these steps of saying is actually can be come from the police officer, officers in charge, or constable of Thana. But after observing the whole incident of Bangladesh, there are no practice of this good realization to make a very good behavior with the common people whenever they are entering into the Thana premises. So I humbly request to all of the law enforcement agencies. So police officer is not the only law enforcement agencies. There is actually the rapid action battalion. There are the military person, even the another law stakeholders who definitely are working on that issue to reduce the problem, to reduce the lawlessness in Bangladesh. So having lots of technical issues and technical codification, still I believe that the situation will change in the future time, because Bangladeshi government, they are following the international standard for reshaping the law enforcement agencies to make enhancement of their power, composition, activation in the future time. So if you make a comparative discussion between 20 years ago's police officers and present police officers, there are huge amount of difference. Right now the police officers, they are very much smart, they are doing their activities without any kind of taking extra fees, without taking the bribe money. So this is the actual discourse is happening in Bangladesh. So we have been faced these types of common problem from 1998. So this is the time of 2026. We have to overcome from this situation only for two grounds. The first of all, the whole world is depend on the digital codification. Whenever Bangladeshi government they will follow the digital discourse, digital institutions, digital e-governments, then 90% of the problem will be solved out. The second reason is that whenever the police officers, it's actually the part of the good governance. Whenever the police officers is providing the good justice, good codification to the common people, then the common people have believed on the law enforcement agencies, rule of law, and access to justice. So while I'm talking about the good governance, there are lots of issues related to the good governance. The first issues is that the actual law abiding of the people. The second reason is that there is no corruption. The third reason of good governance is that there are transparency and accountability of the government stakeholders. I mean the government officers. So I think that Bangladeshi government they have to take a very good strategy to make a supervision power over the police officers, particularly the law enforcement agencies. And in the time, 99% of our problem is solving. One of the philosophers of Bangladesh, he said that actually our biggest problem is actually corruption. Whenever we are not get rid of from the corruption, then our problem, then our codification, then our good rationality, even our evil mind will not stop doing these types of malpractices, malactivities. So this is the time for the reformation. I think that the present government they will reform the whole stakeholders of the lawlessness in Bangladesh. It will be in the tertiary stage. After the tertiary stage, the government will take the responsibilities in the higher studies. I mean that they will take effective responsibilities in reducing corruption from the government officers, and in that time the actual rule of law and access to justice will happen, and people will get a very good realization over the matter of the activities and responsibilities of the government. On the other hand, it is not only the sole responsibility of the government to establish the access to justice and to establish a society whether no people will organize crime. Actually, government's duty is to as like the CCTV camera or watchdog. The government has no responsibility not to commit any kind of crime. People will do crime, but after doing the crime, the government will definitely come forward. The law enforcement agencies come forward to stop these types of vindictiveness, destruction of the society. In that time, the law enforcement agencies can demand that they are in good nature, there are no problems in our different stakeholders related to the law enforcement agencies in Bangladesh. Thank you.